So I was working on a different video entirely, and then I go on X and I see Bill Maher get completely demolished on his own show on the Trump tariffs. You guys have got to check this out.
I want to answer the question about manufacturing in the 70s.
Oh, I don't blame you. I'll go back to that too.
People want to go back to the 70s is in the 70s, the largest share of our GDP was in the middle class.
And she's not wrong. Middle class income peaked around 1985, representing about 37% of the total wealth. And it has been on a steady decline since then. The middle class's income has failed to compete with inflation and the rest of the economy. Till now, it only accounts for about 28%. If you like the content, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Share the video with someone you know, man. It does a lot to help me out with this YouTube algorithm, guys. I appreciate it. We're going to finish out this clip because she's got a lot of really good stuff to say. And then that's going to give us a lot to talk about on tariffs and the economy, some good examples, bad examples to look at.
And that was not separate from the fact that 25% of our economy was in manufacturing.
Right, the largest share of our GDP
was in the middle class, the biggest chunk, the middle class,
most
people
of
who
what
were
was
middle
produced
income.
Came from the middle, and now it comes from what? The rich.
Now the top 20% controls over 50% of the GDP. Our economy was an upward funnel of wealth, and the largest share, which used to be in manufacturing, which gave a lot of working class people a middle class standard of living, now the largest share is in real estate and finance, meaning that asset-rich Americans are controlling over 50% of the GDP, and they have left the working class out of all of that prosperity that was generated. That manufacturing is still being done. It's just being done in other countries. It is still
for wages we will not work for.
That's exactly right. You're right, Bill. That's what the tariffs are for. They are to make American workers more competitive in the global market. Why are we accepting that there should be a race to the bottom? You know, China, what is its competitive advantage over us? It's that it pays slave wages. Why should we accept that? They're still manufacturing our PPE, our pharmaceuticals, our cars. They're making all that stuff. Trump says there are 5 industries that we cannot have any kind of national security without having a stake in them. Pharmaceuticals, lumber, steel, aluminum, and I forget what the 5th one was. But these are really important that we have a stake in the manufacturing of the things that we need as a nation, so that when China decides that it wants to go to war against us, we're not relying on them for steel and aluminum in order to fight them.
Okay, well, at least that's an answer.
Yo, with the at least that's an answer. And the crazy thing is, who's going to be able to argue with that? Because she's exactly right. I thought she was off to a great start to explain that. I was hoping to find another video that was a little more interesting than me just talking at the camera to explain this to you guys. But I think there's 2 really awesome examples throughout history for us to see what good tariffs and what bad tariffs look like, right? And so a really great example of economic protectionism gone awry is Harley-Davidson throughout the 1980s, right? Where Harley-Davidson was losing all this money to the Japanese manufacturers because they were making competitive bikes for cheaper. And so Reagan, you know, it was his first term. He puts all this press into going over to Harley-Davidson in Pennsylvania, riding around on a golf cart, you know, shaking people's hands, slapping 45% tariffs on 700cc plus bikes in the motorcycling industry, right? Which is kind of ironic because during that exact same time, wasn't it between like 82 to 89, we lost hundreds of thousands of jobs moving manufacturing overseas. So it's real interesting that, you know, even back then you had the uniparty establishment where they would say, hey, we're going to protect your jobs. We're here for the workers. When in reality, they're just handing the jobs out the back door, man. It's kind of wild. But Harley-Davidson, what did they do? They sat on their laurels. I mean, they didn't innovate for years. It wasn't until the V-Rod that they even bothered with overhead cams in their engines instead of push rods, right? And as a result of that, the Evo from 1991 is still their most reliable engine model. So it's like, you know, in the new Revolution Max, I mean, they just started doing that since what, 2015? 2015, 2016. So, and now Harley-Davidson is not even owned by the U.S. anymore. Foreign companies bought out Harley-Davidson. So really, are you buying an American bike with Harley-Davidson anymore, you know? And then what happened? What did it do to the motorcycling industry? I mean, Harley-Davidson, instead of saying, hey, they bought us some time, let's come out with something that's going to be competitive in the industry, they said, no, we're a heritage brand. We're not going to change how we make our bikes at all. And so it resulted in just all motorcycles being way more expensive and larger bikes essentially being unattainable. It basically put a chokehold on the motorcycling industry, and now motorcycling is a fraction of what it could be as a culture and industry because as a domino effect from those tariffs in the 80s. And then so you might say, okay, Chromo, you don't like tariffs, classic libertarian stance, makes sense for you, right? Well, I'm gonna be annoying and say, actually, I do. I love tariffs. I think they're great. Why, you ask? Why? Well, I have one word for you. Japan. See, Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry uses tariffs very selectively as part of an overall strategy in order to build industries up to compete on the geopolitical stage. So I broke everything down in the notes here because I keep on rambling. So what they do is they start out with targeted protection. They pick winner industries, steel, shipbuilding, autos, electronics. They shield them from foreign competition using tariffs, import quotas, currency controls. The idea is to allow them to get their footing as an industry, establish their supply lines, to help them be on a competitive playing field with these foreign goods. They also have massive export pushes. So you get tax breaks if you export enough goods. And they also work with private entities to fund research and development, which is extremely important, keeping research and development for industries decentralized rather than in the hands of corporate interest, man. And it's something that I actually talk about in my plan for an alternative economy. So if you made it this far, you're a real one. And if you are down, check out my plan for an alternative economy and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about it.